I have a question for you, Everton.
All
Are
right.
you in the mood to hate?
I am in the mood to hate.
Yeah, I love
Always in the
hating.
mood.
Hating's so fun. Too much positivity in the world. So we're gonna transition into our team breakdown. Last week we did one on the Raptors where it's more like focusing on the future, but we are going to focus on the present this time, and we are going to be taking a look at the Milwaukee Bucks. Everton, yesterday, some breaking news came out that despite being a second seed in the East, the Milwaukee Bucks are going to fire Adrian Griffin. And lots of new coaching options. The Bucks need a very good head coach with the position they're in to transition to the next spot. Who do you think they would hire? Like is there like a good coach you think that's out there? Like there's a couple options, but the Milwaukee Bucks, they went with Doc Rivers. Everton, I want you to take the mic in a second, but I want to read you a statistic before you hate.
Go
Here is
ahead.
my notebook with my very awesome statistic that came from Overtime's Twitter page. Doc Rivers has lost 32 closeout games, 7 series leading 3-2, 10 game sevens, and 12 series while holding the series lead.
Oh,
That's awful. And before I let you vent, it's why I hate that Celtics team that won the championship. They're easily my least favorite finals team of all time. They set basketball back like centuries because they act like they were a dynasty with that one stupid ring. Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett do not shut up. And Doc Rivers still gets employed for just this reason when he is terrible. He is so bad. The only advantage of or the only plus for him getting hired is he does not need to be on commentary for the finals.
them ashy vocal cords, bro, got.
Yeah.
Before I jump into the Bucks, I guess I'll brief about Doc. I'll brief about him with the Celtics. I'll talk more about him on the Bucks later, but with the Celtics, bro, if you would have lost with them, that would have been bad. Like you have KG, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce and
And
Rondo. Like that was
Prime
a good
Rondo.
team. Like you couldn't lose with that team. You
Mhm.
know, obviously the years after, injuries, happen, whatever. But dang, like for people who don't know ball, they would have thought the Celtics three-peated. Like, like that team. I'm not annoyed by it as much as most people are.
Mhm.
Because, hey, I just appreciate NBA players talking about, their careers and stuff. But man, like, I know ball, they won one ring. People who don't,
Yeah.
they might be like, yeah, I know they won their three-peater, right? No, they did not three-peat, bro. It was 1 year. So that's a little something about that. But okay, so you want me to talk about all of my thoughts about the Bucks?
No, we're just gonna focus on head coaching first before we dive into the team. Like I
Okay,
want to
so for the head
crap on
coaching
Doc
thing,
Rivers,
oh, Doc Rivers specifically, or just
or you
the
can also like think if it's a good hire. I mean, go ahead. Like,
Okay, so first I want to say, people were kind of surprised about Griffin getting like fired.
mhm,
But look, they've had the second best offense, which is okay, that's great, but 21st like ranked defense. Look,
mhm,
as a contender, you cannot be that low defensively. You
mhm,
know, obviously, you lose Drew Holiday and replace him with Dame, completely two different level defenders.
mhm.
But you still have Giannis and Brook Lopez. You shouldn't be 21st.
Yep.
So I don't know about like the personnel might not be as great to be as good defensively, but to be 21st, I didn't expect that. And obviously, the reports about the players not really, like losing faith in him basically and not really being behind him as much. So, but the one thing I want to say before I let you, go ahead and say your piece is for me, this doesn't surprise me. I've seen this before. Like
Mhm.
this reminded me, like as soon as it happened, I'm like, oh, do you remember David Blatt?
Who do you coach?
The Cavs when LeBron, like I think 2016 to
Yeah,
2016,
I
right?
do. Yep.
So that reminds me strict like just like that because the and I had to go back and look at the article to make sure I was right. The
Huh.
Cavs fired David Blatt when they were 30 and 11. Like they
Huh.
were a top team in the East. I think they were
Yep.
number one or number two, and they still fired him. And people were like, "What?" And they won a championship that year.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not gonna say it was just that firing, LeBron and Kyrie did what they did in the finals. But regardless, like I've seen it where a team is doing good, but they still fire the head coach because there's other things they want to solve that problem. And we'll talk about if they solve that problem, but
Mhm.
that's just what that reminded me. Like it mirrored like you're a good team and still fired your coach.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a point you said that I want to touch on. It's about how they were bad defensively. And I think that's a blame both on Adrian Griffin and the way the team is built. First off, this is just the dumbest idea I've ever seen in basketball. Like they'll go against a team with like a high volume like scoring like guard. Like, oh, let's run a double team. Let's send Brooke Lopez out. That's a waste of a double team. That leaves the paint wide open. And so it's like Brooke Lopez, like you can make an argument that like I'm more athletic than like Brooke Lopez when it comes to, going from like baseline to baseline. It's just I'm quicker. Brooke Lopez is not shifty or nimble in the slightest. So you send him up there, the guard's just gonna get past him, just dribble his way. Brooke Lopez isn't stopping that. And they just get to the paint, relying a little too much on Giannis to defend the paint and perimeter, and they're getting buckets. So that's a terrible idea. That should be fireable alone. But the defense is also just bad, just how this team is built. So unless you have another point about the coaching, I would like to transition into the team's build and still talk about coaching there if that's fine.
Um, I guess should we talk about Doc Rivers, or you want to say that for the last point?
I think we can merge it into both because I think how this team's built defensively is another reason why I worry about this team.
And
Is
I agree with that.
Yeah, because Giannis and Brooke Lopez are fantastic paint defenders. They're some of the I don't want to say the best, but they're some of the best in the league when it comes to defending the paint. But then you look at their point guards, shooting guard, and small forward, where they have Damian Lillard, Malik Beasley, and Chris Middleton. Who's defending the perimeter? Like, there's no one.
Like that was why, like I said, when they traded Drew, like the personnel wasn't great defensively. So I expected him to fall defensively.
Mhm.
And even off the bench, Cameron Payne, who's he guarding? Um, obviously Jay Crowder's been injured for most of the season. So
Mhm.
hopefully with him coming back, that could help. But bro, how much stock can you put into like a 34, 35-year-old Jay Crowder,
Yeah.
bro? Like,
And
you
let
know,
alone if you're supposed to win a championship and like you're like grasp for hope on how to get the chips, like, oh, we need Shea Crowder to hoop. It's over.
it's over. Exactly.
You lost.
You lost. Like that's why, in our other video, I mentioned that if they want to make a trade,
Mhm.
Alex Russo is their
Yep.
guy. But yeah, that personnel isn't strong defensively. Perimeter defensively is not
Mhm.
strong.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to touch about the trades later. We'll get to that to look at draft capital and some contracts. But you look at this roster and you see a great starting five, and then you see a bench of Bobby Portis, Trey Crowder, Pat Connaughton, Cameron Payne. And it's like, oh man, this is bad. So you have this issues all going on. You have Damian Lillard, who's having an off season for him, which is so sad to say. But Damian Lillard, from my research, is having a top three worst season in 3-point percentage and field goal percentage. But yet he's taking less attempts. It's not like he's taking more and missing. He's should be more efficient, but he's gone backwards. What chance does Doc Rivers have of fixing this, if any?
So the only thing that like for me with Doc Rivers, I guess, versus Adrian Griffin, I guess, one, I think I'll give this credit to Doc Rivers in his career. While he's been like a sell merchant, he's a floor raiser. Like,
Hmm.
he's a guy who can help a team do better than it probably should. At least for teams who are like without stars, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, but he is a sell merchant. We'll talk whatever. But I think he might be able to get more out of the Bucks than Adrian Griffin, and I think the players will be more behind Doc Rivers than they would Griffin. Obviously, like I said, the reports say that multiple players like lost faith in Adrian Griffin. So maybe under Doc, they're like, all right, this guy's won a championship before.
Hmm.
Maybe we're more, have more faith in him, and he's an experienced coach. Like, you're going from a guy who gets his first head coaching job to a guy who, look, he's overrated, but he's coached before, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
So he's at least had experience working, well, not only just coaching, but working with like star players.
Hmm.
So that might be okay. That might make them a little bit more believable, but it's still Doc Rivers. His track record makes it still like, nah, bro, nah.
So then I'm gonna ask two questions followed up. We're gonna do one at a time. Firstly, no
hmm
trades. That's gonna be my second question. But for this first trade, with the Doc Rivers hiring and the current roster, does this team have a chance of making it to the finals?
Um, so the roster, look, I'll keep it honest with you. You got Giannis on your team, I'll give you a chance. You know what I'm
That's real.
saying? So that alone, I'll still keep them in the running. And look, the East is like it's not that strong, but it's stronger than it's been before. I'll tell you that much. But
Hmm.
look, you still got Giannis and Dame. I know Dame's been kind of up and down this year, but at the end of the day, it's still Giannis and Damian Lillard. I'll still
Hmm.
give them their respect. And the team isn't like a terrible team. Like Chris Middleton is still, he's not the same, but
Hmm.
he's still a solid player. You know, Brook
Yeah.
Lopez block some shots. Bobby Porter's come off the bench, give you some energy, score a little bit.
Hmm.
Malik Beasley can shoot too.
Oh, yeah. He's having his best
Uh,
shooting season by far. I looked online.
exactly.
He's shooting 47% from three.
Exactly. I
That's
swear.
ridiculous.
I swear, once guys get out of them Lakers jerseys, they just remember how to play basketball.
It's
uh,
ridiculous.
it's crazy. But so like the team isn't terrible, and you still got Giannis and Dame, so I'll give them that respect. But when I look at Doc Rivers and you just read off the stats, bro, it's insane how much he sells, bro. Like,
Yeah.
and I'll cut him some slack because some of the times where they've lost, dude, the players on his team just play horrible. Like in the bubble when the Clippers blew that 3-1 lead, bro.
Yeah.
PG, look, I love Paul George,
Uh-huh.
bro.
Playoff P was something else.
That like I'll never forget seeing him hit the side of the backboard. That was crazy. And then Kawhi in that game 7 was terrible too. Like, what can you do when your two like superstars like just phase out,
Mhm.
And even with the Sixers, I've said this multiple times. Joel Embiid, name one Joel Embiid series.
Not a good one. I can.
You know what I'm saying? And then James Harden at that,
Yeah.
Ben Simmons.
Ugh, ugh.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like when I look at things like that, I'm like, okay, how much was he really gonna do when that happens?
Mhm.
But again, bro, you can't have that record as a coach. Like you just can't have that record, bro.
I
So
100% agree. But my worry with that is people selling is I know Damian Lillard's fantastic in the playoffs, but as we said, has been looking, I don't want to say terrible, definitely not terrible. It's been not looking the Damian Lillard, the standard we give him. And so if you're going to rely on him in a rising, he hasn't been rising. That's got to be a big worry for the Bucks. And I also have another big worry for the Bucks. It's just this was supposed to be like this first or second best team in the East, like convincingly, and they're flat out not winning games convincingly. They have a very interesting stat for you, Everton. I did a little bit of research on statmuse.com, fantastic website, but I'm not paying $20 a month. So if you want to lock me
Cook,
out, go ahead.
Cook.
But so I have the winning margins of the three teams in the West and the three teams in the East. Okay.
hmm
The Celtics have a win margin of 426 points. The Thunder have a win margin of 367 points. Sixers win margins 347. Timberwolves is 251 and they can't score offensively. The Nuggets margin's 224 and they're coasting. Yeah, the Bucks win margin's just 186 points. I just think that's a massive worry for how bad they are defensively and not being as dominant as they need to be offensively.
Yeah, like when I even that's a great stat by the way. Hey,
Thank you. Yeah, I
everybody,
did a little research.
that's for Joey, bro.
Thank you.
That's a great stat. But like even for me, like I watch the Bucks games or I check box scores. The most of the time when they win games, it's because they scored more points than the other team. Like the Pistons, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the Pistons game the other week, or was it last week or a few days ago?
I think it was
They
last
had
week.
to put up 145 to the Pistons like 140 or some
Yeah.
crazy like they gave up 130 plus points to the Pistons. Like, bro, you can't do that, bro.
Yeah, let's
Like,
be
no,
serious.
like you can't do that, bro. Like, I can't trust you as a contender when you're giving up that many points, and that's why they got smoked by the Pacers so many times this year
Hmm.
because Pacers are the best offense. You can't outscore them.
Yeah,
So if you're gonna try to outscore them, you're gonna lose, and it's pretty
exactly.
much
With
what's happened.
Siakam now too, like that team's so disgusting. And Jarris
Exactly.
Walker's finally getting minutes, man. Like, oh, they're
Finally.
figuring it out in Indiana. I'd be so scared for any other team in the East. But now I'm gonna
um,
transition into my. Oh wait, hold on. You can say your point if you have one more.
I was gonna say the last thing for me why I'm not too sure about the Bucks is the Celtics exist, and I know that's kind of like weird, but for people don't know, Drew Holiday. I remember about 5 or 6 years ago when the Blazers and the Pelicans played each other in the playoffs, and the Blazers I think were the third seed, and they're like the favorites.
Yeah.
They got swept by the Pelicans, and
Uh,
Drew Holiday, bro, the defense this man played on Damian Lillard. He had Lillard like it was bad. Like I need to
Yeah.
go look at the numbers again, but I remember Lillard was putting up tour numbers, bro. It was terrible. Like Drew Holiday was locking him up.
Uh-huh.
Um, and when you look at the Celtics, when they play against the Bucks, they do a pretty decent job against Giannis. Like I know he's had some good games and some pretty solid series against the Celtics, but
Hmm.
they've done a good job, better than most people do against Giannis. And we look at Dame, he's already having a down season, but now you got to go be guarded by Derek White and Drew Holiday.
It's raps.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But
Yeah.
go ahead, do it.
So
Go ahead
this is
and
gonna transition to my second question. So I'm gonna bounce it off you. It's just so do you believe the Bucks have to make a trade if they want to make it out the East?
I'll be honest, yeah. Like
Mhm.
I didn't think initially that they would have to, but if they really want to, they can either go on the buyout market and try to get some guys who are defenders,
Mhm.
or you might have to make a trade and trade for a perimeter defender. Like you need perimeter defense, bro.
Mhm.
Like that is your like biggest weak. Like offensively, look, you still got Dame and Giannis. I think your offense will be fine, you know.
Mhm.
But you need guys who can play defense, like perimeter point of attack defense. You need it. So
Yeah,
I do think
absolutely.
low key.
And I'm going to break the hearts of multiple Milwaukee fans with this one because this is a very sad sentence to say. And he hasn't been playing bad at all. So this isn't like, oh, we need to ship him out. But I think Bobby Portis has to be traded because
I
that's how you're
agree.
going to
That's
get the
the
guy you
guy.
need. Because he's
Hmm.
fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But with having Giannis and Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis isn't really the six man you're looking for. If the guy's coming off the bench, he has to be willing to get you a bucket when you need it. And that's not Bobby Portis's game. So you get that contract out. And if you can get to a team where you can get like a perimeter defender and maybe a scorer off the bench with some draft capital, like that's exactly what the Bucks need. And I know it's because they love Bobby Portis, and I don't blame him. Bobby Portis is so fun to watch play basketball, so electric, so passionate. It makes you. It's the reason why you want to love the sport. Like I'm not a Bucks fan at all, but when they went to the finals, I went to two of their games against the Atlanta Hawks. And dude, man, they love Portis down there. Like his cheers are almost as loud as Giannis when they do like player introductions. Like he's such a fan favorite. But like if the Bucks want to make it back, Bobby Portis is the guy I think that has to go.
Yeah, I agree. They love Bobby. I don't know if you know, but people have been calling me Bobby Portis and I look like him. And I see it. I'm not mad at it. But they do love Bobby. I watch a lot of Bucks games. They love Bobby Portis out there. And
Hmm.
for good reason. Like the same things you said. And he's a good player, but I've been thinking this exact same thing. If they want to get better and make a trade, it has to be Bobby Portis. Because that starting five is fine. Like you don't want to move any of those guys, but
Hmm.
Bobby Portis might have to be the guy you move to get some defense and maybe some draft capital. I don't know how much teams are going to want to give
Yeah.
up, but
Oh, I
they got
meant
to
they,
get some
they might have
defense.
to give us some draft
Oh,
capital.
give
Like
up
they
some
they
draft
have, yeah,
capital.
they have picks to work
Oh,
with.
okay,
Some of them
okay,
are
okay.
swaps, but they have picks.
Yeah, they do. Okay. All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
And my thing is like this is gonna upset some Bulls fans, but I'd give up Caruso for a Bobby Portis reunion. You don't have to worry about Nikola Mirotic saying some racial stuff in the backstage of Bobby Portis swinging at him. That's out of the issue now, but the Bulls need a defensive center. If you want to give me Bobby Portis and some draft capital, I love Caruso to death. They want two first round picks. I'll take Bobby Portis and some draft capital because that will set us up for the next part because Caruso's getting older and just as I love him, he's so awesome, but like he should be on a contender. Like I care about the players more than the team at the moment, and I want to see Caruso succeed.
I swear we think the exact same because I've literally been like, I've been literally thinking like, look, if I mean, I said it in another video about Caruso going to the Bucks, but the person Bobby Portis for Caruso. I think it works both ways. Like, especially if the Bulls do end up selling, which it seems like they're trying to sell,
Yeah.
but the market's not great out there. But
What? Did you hear the rumors that came out today?
no, I didn't. What happened?
Apparently, the Pistons, I think, might give up Bogdanovich and one of Ivy
Oh,
or
never mind.
Duran for
Hmm.
Levine.
Whoa. I don't know about Duran. There's no way. If the Pistons trade Duran,
Yeah.
they are stupid.
I mean, it's Detroit. Like,
I guess
let's be
that's
real
true.
here. Dude,
They're stupid if
Give
they
me
do that.
Bogey and Duran, and the Bulls are like the eighth seed. That's a win in my eyes.
Nah, hey, if the Bulls put up for Levine, finesse of the century.
Yeah,
That the Pistons
absolutely.
are idiots if they do that. I heard about the Pistons were trying to go after DeJounte Murray, but
That's
why?
terrible.
I don't know.
How to set back Cade's development like 101.
Like, why would you do that? That makes no sense. But
Not at all.
whatever. But yeah, I don't know. The market's not great for a lot of the Bulls guys, but Caruso
The
might
market's
be the
there.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so overall, I think we can agree that the Bucks, I don't want to say are screwed, but they're getting close to screwed.